Today we will be building one more application together, which we will practice on the Firebase on Google. Have you ever heard of Firebase before, Jacob?
I have not.
No. Okay. Well, let me just demonstrate the Firebase a little bit. Okay, so the Firebase is basically, it's kind of a database. Actually, they've started as a database, but then they built more on top of it. For example, let's say that you are building a React application, but you need a backend, you need a database that until now, we all work on local, right? So we store everything as locally because we didn't have any backend before. But now Firebase is one of the database that you can use, which Google provides. And then there are not only database, they have started as a database at the beginning, but now they have several other products like hosting as well. But today we will be building a React application, but as a backend, and actually not a backend, but the database will be using the Firebase. So we will basically build a React application, which will use a Firebase at the backend. So again, Firebase is an application is basically a database provided by Google. It's mostly to use as a real-time database, like chat applications. For example, let's say WhatsApp application. So in WhatsApp application, whenever someone sends you a message, that message stores in somewhere. As soon as it has been generated, that message, and you get notified, you have received a message from someone. So that's basically kind of a Firebase database system, which is real-time database. As soon as you update the database, then you get the results and the front end as soon as anybody or someone updates the database. For example, again, a chat application. Somebody sends you a message means is updating the database. As soon as the database is updated with a new message from someone, from your friend, that you get notified is like a real-time database system. So today, we'll be generating a database from Firebase, and we will be storing our contacts in Firebase because we'll be building a contact application today. Let me quickly demonstrate how this contact application will look like. So let's just log in let's go to desktop and then Fire Contact. Fire Contact will be our application name today, and PM start. So let me demonstrate quickly how this application will look like. So we will generate one of them today by using Firebase technology. All right. All right, so this is the application we will be building today. Once again, this is a React application in the front end, but as a database, this application is using Firebase. We don't have to install anything. We will basically create a Firebase application quickly at the beginning. Then we will attach this Firebase application, the Firebase database, to our React application. So we can store anything online after this point. Okay. Again, this is kind of an application. It's basically a contact application because it's built in the Firebase. You will call this application Fire Contact. So that's the project name. So whenever you have some data, and let's set this up here, and when you add this, it's here, and we got a notification, right? And then we can cancel this notification or let the notification cancel itself. So that's the one way we add the contact. Again, when we refresh this app, this will never disappear. That's because they are all stored online. So until we delete these items, that this will be remain in the database, in the Firebase, actually. Let's call it Firebase. So now after this, we will have a delete option. Okay, and also get a notification after deletion. And now we have nothing found. So if we add again something here, so if you add again, then we will also have an edit option, which usually, let's refresh this. So currently our contact form is empty. As soon as we click edit, it will be populate by this data to the form. Whatever changes you made in this form now, and if you click add again, there's it should be update, but anyway, if you click this add button again, now it will be updated with the new phone number like this. So because we click edit and it's auto-populate our contact form. But again, this should be actually changed to the update button so we can understand we are updating the contact, but maybe we can fix this. This is quite a, we can say basically glitch. So, all right, when we refresh again, everything comes from Firebase. That's the application. And every time when we refresh, the background changes the background image. So, do you have any question for this application? So we will be starting the building today, again, by using Firebase and also the React application. Yes, any questions so far?
We will use Redux or contacts?
Or no.
Okay.
Very basically React application. No Redux, no contacts, basically Firebase.
Okay, nice.
So we will be adding a new technology to our CV, which is Firebase. Again, this Firebase is basically a real-time database application, which means as soon as you update the data in Firebase, this auto-populate here. Anyone, currently we are using this application ourselves, only one user, but if, let's say, hundreds of users are using the same application and one of the user changed anything in the app, the Firebase automatically updates the front-end side. So that's basically a real-time database, what we can call for it. Usually the database or the application doesn't update until you refresh, but Firebase is a real-time database. Again, as soon as any data changes, it auto-updates the front end. We really don't need to do anything for it. All right. So that's the application. I will keep this application on the side. Maybe let me just stop serving this application for now and change the folder name, because I will create the same folder name. So fire contact sample, that's the folder name.
Could you share your code, please?
I'm not typing yet. I'm basically
okay.
Yeah, I'm basically changing the folder name. So now we can create a new React application on the desktop. Okay, now you can see here. Well, great. Let's go to desktop. So this time again, let's create a new React application, which is create React app, and this time is fire contact. Again, this application, this project name is the fire contacts because we are using the Firebase and we are building a contact management application. So that's the npx create React app fire contact, and let's fire it. And it will create a folder on the desktop. You can do it at the same time if you want. We'll be starting everything from scratch. All right, so as soon as it's all right. While it's been installing, let's also create our Firebase application on the site. If you already fired your npx React application command, let it run at the back behind. And let's just create our Firebase application as well. So we will go basically to Firebase app, sorry, firebase.google.com. Let me share the link in the chat, in the class chat. Okay, so that's the website. We will go to firebase.google.com. So then we will say get started. If you have logged in already, it will take you to this page. If not, it will ask you to log in. So let me wait for you if you need to log in.
Did we use it before, the Firebase?
I don't think so. Did you?
Oh, because I'm logged in.
Oh, yeah, maybe because of Google.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you are
Okay.
using Gmail, if you're already logged into your Gmail, so I think that's why you're logged in.
Got it. I was
Yeah.
like, I don't know this site.
Yeah, it's actually, I was also surprised when I just started and just log in automatically. That's also a surprise.
So
Okay.
just create the project.
Right, we will just click to create a project and we will give simply a name for it. So we can say fire contact. That's the, you know, any name you can give. It really doesn't matter. So anything you want, you can give. You can even give, like, I'm not using any space, but you can use a space. It's automatically convert the spaces with hyphen and also the convert all uppercase to the lowercase. And also it adds some random numbers because of the conflict. If somebody else are using the same application, like you use Fire Contact. So if you all rename the project Fire Contact, it adds auto number at the end, which just avoids the conflicts. The Fire Contact is the application name. I need to accept the Firebase terms and also this one to create my application. That's basically the giving any name. So I don't change anything else. Basically, it's the app name and check these terms and conditions, and then just click continue. Right in the next step, we don't need to enable any analytics stuff because we're not building a real world application. But let's say you're building a real world public application that you will share with the public. So then you can enable the Google Analytics and you can see how many users are using which functionality of your application. But now, again, it's a very small application. I will disable this option. And I will just create the project. And that's it. So this will take you to this page, is creating your application. And let's wait for it and also check how is npm is doing. So it's all fine. And here is my React application right here. So, and my Firebase application is created. It's ready. I can click continue and it will take me to the dashboard, the Firebase dashboard. All right. At least now I have an application created. With the Firebase, you can see you can use in iOS applications that you built. You can use Android application you built. Guess what? We'll be using for web because we are building a web application. But even if you're building some games, so you can use it in Unity engine while you're doing your game application. So it's really useful. You can see here that you can also build an authentication in just this Firebase with just 5 clicks. You don't have to build a whole authentication system for your own application, but quickly you can build very basic authentication in here. But again, we are only interested today with its database. But now I'll just keep it here. Okay, so that's it for now, but we will continue after we build some React bits in the front end side. Okay, so now let's just open this file contact application in VS Code. All right, so that's my VS Code. I will update later and I will share my code with you. Okay, so that's the, if you want, you can join along with me while building this application. I've sent the link in the class chat just now. All right, so I will just minimize this bit, which now we can, okay, here again, if you haven't seen this application, once again, I've closed this React, but I can basically demonstrate it's a contact management application. We'll put the contact name, phone number, and select its gender. When we click add, it will be populate our Firebase, and then Firebase will automatically populate our front end. So again, we will be able to delete the contacts and also edit the contacts for today's application. So by doing that, you'll be able to add the Firebase technology to your resume as well. A new technology for you, but again, this left click is misbehaving for me. Oh, I'm just clicking left, but it just clicking right. Hey, what's happening? So turn it on and off. Okay, now it's fixed. Perfect. All right. Yeah, that's the application we'll be building. Maybe at the beginning, the application will not look that pretty, but it will be functional. Okay, so first of all, let's get started with the npm start, which I need a terminal first. Let's create a terminal. And right here in my application, let's start with npm start. So that's a just basic empty React application. All right. I think now you just stop this and let's run the localhost 3000 in here. It's been still trying to start the server. All right, nice. We've got this here. I'll wait for you if you haven't got your React up and running yet. But if you're good to go, just let me know so we can continue.
Good.
Good, okay. Jacob, Zamira, everything okay? So
Yes.
I'm good.
all right then. So again, as we start in any new application, so I will basically remove everything from the app.js, which is in here. right? Because I don't need anything in the app.js except this class, except this div. So I will remove everything in between. So let's just remove them basically. Okay, and just save it. Now I will have an empty React page like this. Awesome. I no longer need any logo and CSS as well. Just remove them. But again, yeah, we are using a functional components, but it's good to include the React anyway. So import React from, interestingly, from React. It's good to include, even we will be not using any React stuff in the functional component, but it's good to have. All right. All right. So here it is. Here's the application and nothing we have. Well, so first let's start crafting the application with very basic inputs and very basic table real quick. Then we will connect this Firebase to the React. Then in the last session, I think we will be adding some pretty CSS or some components to make the application look better. But now again, it's just basic form inputs and the table. Yeah, basically for this session. All right. So what we have is the one form, which is asking the user's name and phone number and its gender, and a button with a form. And we have some table here. If you just extend this a little bit, so you can see there's a table here in the HTML table, data table, you can say, to have that's username, phone number, gender, and delete and edit functionality, as you see here. So I'll be basically building it real quick without any styling, but we will focus on the functionality more. So again, all right. Now, the first bit, we will create a form. The second bit, we will create our table. There is two ways. One, I can build in one single app.js file. Two, I can create components and include those components to the app.js, which I will prefer later. But again, in the beginning, let's just create in one page in app.js. Then we can split into components, which is form component and also the table component, the list component. Okay. So the first of all, again, just in a single page, let's start creating the application. The first of all, again, I need a form here, right? So we can create a form there, which is, let's try this first. Okay, here is my form. I don't need any action for now. It's just to keep as a form. Inside the form, I will have two inputs, one select and one button. Let's create them. So one input, which is text. And for now, let's put the placeholder name. So that will just hold the name of the contact. The second input is again the type text, but we will put phone number. You may ask that a phone number is a number. Why don't we just change its type to number? If we do, then if you want to store kind of like, let's say, plus 44, which is the country code, you can't be able to add plus. Even if you're not adding any plus sign, I think all phone numbers starting with a 0. And when you have the phone number start with a 0, and if you type this as a number, this 0 will be disappeared. So that's why we'll be just using a text for the phone number. So this one is again form. Let's keep the consistency. There's a single quote which I need to make a double quote. I'm using a single quote in JavaScript, but double quote in HTML. So So single quote for JavaScript and double quote for HTML. And also the last bit is the before the last, which is select. So let's create a select element. And it asks a name and it asks a number. For now, let's just cancel this. We don't need anything yet. But select doesn't have any placeholder, but it has its option. So we will create some option for the gender, which is M for male, F for female, what else we have? Okay, another. Oops. O for other. Okay. What else? Okay, so we need an option which says gender here, which currently I have no any item like a placeholder, but we can basically create a placeholder with a select, which is option. For now, we will not use any value. We can keep that disabled. And we can just say gender. It's kind of a placeholder now. After saving this application, let's see if that looks all right. I think we also need to say selected for this. So then you can see it's like a placeholder now, a gender. And when you select, you can't select the gender. So you should select the male or female or other. So the gender looks like a placeholder for this select. So it's basically a workaround. We can play with the select. Of course, in the last session, when we convert this application, look a bit more pretty like this, then we will be tackling this bit much more easy. But for now, it's basic form input, and it is here, the name, font, gender, and finally a button before we submit the form. So, excuse me. So here is my button, and I think we will just say add for the button, and this button basically a type of submit. Okay, now here is my form, and it's just here. Let's save. And my add button in here. All right, again, I'm not interested in styling for now, but I will focus on the functionality first, which is the Firebase. Okay, so that's the first bit, no styling yet. And the last bit, which will be the table, which is this, so the table. So now let's create a table for it. Or I can wait a little bit for you if you haven't done yet.
I'm good.
All right.
I'm good too.
Awesome. The next bit is the table. So we will create a very basic HTML table for it. So let's say table. It didn't autocomplete. That's interesting. Again, it didn't autocomplete. Okay, so I will create manually. All right, with the table, I will have some table headings like this. I will have some table headings, and I will have the table rows, which will be the two of them is the table row, but they're all table headings. And then this bit is the table body, and it will basically have like the data itself, not the header. So for the table headers, first of all, I need to create TR for the row, and inside the TR, this is the first row. If you remember the table, if you haven't, no worries. You can go any any websites in the Google to just copy one of the table out there. So which is basically the first row, and the first row will basically have our headings, which is th. So they are the headings th. So again, the first one is the name, and other one is the phone number. I'll basically say phone, and the other one is the gender, and delete, and the last one is edit. That's our heading bit, and which is here now. And finally, we will create one more row. Oops. TD. Sorry. TR again. First TR. All right, so TR, and now this time TD. Of course, this TD is empty, so we have nothing for it. I mean, we have no numbers, we have no name, we have no gender, we have no delete and edit functionality yet. So which I will include this as a to-do. So I can basically say to make it as a to-do. I think for the TR bit, we can even separate the table with the T head and T body. So let's do that. T head for the heading, table head, T head. So I can just put that T head into here. Let's copy this a bit inside. Okay, so that's the T head for the table, and finally the T body for, don't do that please, T body. Okay, T body, and I will include a to do here, which I will not do it yet, but basically I will keep a comment to say that to do add, or let's say fetch contact list here, which is later. Okay, awesome. All right, so I have a form, I have a table, which I will split them into two different components later. When this page gets a bit bigger, then I will refactor this page later. But for now, what I need is the state for my name, phone, and gender. That's because I need that state to store. Currently, my inputs is not storing any data in anywhere. But in React-way, we need to create a state for it, for the name, for the phone, and the gender. So then I can, when I submit the form, I will get this data from my state. Then I will submit to the Firebase. But currently, if I change anything here, it doesn't hold anywhere. In React, without React in JavaScript DOM, we would usually select item by its ID and get the value from the input box. But in React, we don't do that way. If you remember, we create a state for it, and we store everything in the state before we submit anything. So if you need the code base, the code base is here. Okay. So here, we can create the state in two ways. We can try the first and easy way first, and then we can change it later, which is this. For example, let me show you in the two ways. The one way that you can store your input, phone, and gender values. So you can basically create, let's say, name, set name, and use state. So that's one way. Oh, it's automatically included. Nice. So the one for the name, one for the phone, and one for the gender. So we can just initialize them with empty string for the name, empty string for the phone, and empty value for gender. We can basically do that, right? So the other way is this. So just turn this off for now. The other one is create one state for it, right? So like this. Let's say const, and let's say contact or info if you want, but the contact, and set contact. And this contact use state, and this contact can be an empty state, so empty object, sorry, which includes the name, which is empty at the beginning, and the phone, which is again empty in the beginning, and the last bit is the gender. Again, it's empty in the beginning. So that's the second way you can create a state. Again, basically one object. That's logical, right? That's because all the contact info is one object, one contact. So you can either do this separately, and when you need to submit, you can create an object and submit later, or you can basically keep as object from the beginning, just submit the object when it's ready. That's it. So this is the other thing that you can do basically in a second way. I don't know, which way do you prefer? The first one, the second one? I basically find the first one much more easy, but again, I see a lot of people also prefer the second way. What about you? What do you think?
I mean, in terms of efficiency, I think the second one is better, but yeah, the first one looks easier. Yeah.
But we never actually worked with the second one, so it would be great if we would use the second one, so we will know how to deal with it too.
Right. Right. So
I like the first one too, because we know what we're doing.
First one?
Yeah, but the second one, I would prefer to do it today. Well,
yeah,
because we didn't do it before, and like it's something new that would be great to learn.
right. Yeah, I think if you use the class components, you have done this. Like you have a state and you have everything in the one state object. And so basically they are one state, which is contact as a state. And then you have one big object for your contact info. So basically, let's stick with the second one for now. And yeah, but you can just keep in mind, you can even separate them, split all the state into the use state. But again, what if you have hundreds of form fields in your form? So then you have to create 100 set use state stuff like this. But instead, it's all one whole object. Then you can create one single state with the whole object. Then you can store everything when it's changed. So then that's, I think, for the efficiency, we can stick with it. Or again, if you remember the last lesson with me, you can use reducer. You can have an initial state like this, and then you can use reducer to reduce the functionality. Yeah, but anyway, so that's very basic one. So I will stick with that, the second option here. And finally, so I think, is it time? Almost time, yeah. So after the break time, so we will now just 1 minute to the break. So then the next bit in the next session, we will store all this value in our state. And when we click the add button, so we are ready to send it to the Firebase. So that means we will do some more stuff in the Firebase side, and then we will connect this Firebase to the React application. So I believe in the next session we will complete the Firebase side, storing the data, and the last session we can make the application a bit more prettier. Right, so that's the plan. So now it's the break time. So I think 15 minutes for the break. If you have any question, do you have any questions? Sorry.
No.
Awesome. Good. And Emirhan, Jacob, is everything okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good.
Awesome. Awesome. So then that's the plan. Let's see you in the next session. Take care. Hello again.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Right. So, okay. So that's our new state we've created. Next, we need to update the state with our input values. Okay. So again, for the name input, whenever I just start typing in, then I need to store this data in my state. So that's why I need to just create one more function for handling my input changes. So I think we can say handle change for this function. So let's say handle change for function. So this is going to be a function which I am going to create a const, a variable, handle change, and this is going to be a function which is arrow function, and there we go. So handle change will basically populate this state with the input field values. Okay, so now I can make it small. All right, so what should I type in here? First of all, what I need is the set contact, right? Because I'm going to set contact items, right? Like we see here. But the other thing is, it will be working with all these 3 items there. 1, 2, 3. I'm not going to set state, set name, set font, set gender separately, but I will have one set contact. It would be very nice if I can pass this function to all these inputs here, the 1, 2, and the select. Just this handle change will handle all of the changes in all inputs. That will be really nice. So I don't need to create 2, 3 different functions for it. So just one function will basically handle the changes in all these fields. Let's just try. What I need, as we know, is the set contact is how we set the state, right? So first of all, I need to get the set contact, but set contact is basically an object. Now, if I just say set contact and a value, this object will be replaced with a value. But what I need is basically to keep that object as it is in here and add only the change that I have received from the input. So which means I will keep the name, font, and gender in the object. Let's say I'm changing the name only, and it will update only the name in this object. If we do in the first method, we'll basically say set name and set name to the value of this input, and set font and value of the font, and set gender is the value of the gender. That's what I said. The first option is a bit more easy. But the second option is again a state, but it's a single object. Within this single object, we have these 3 different properties here now. So When I'm setting the contacts, this time I'm setting an object. Before, I'm just setting a string, another string, another string. But this time it's an object. That's because an object. So what I need to do, now what I need to be careful is to keep all other fields excluding the one that I'm changing. For example, I'm changing the name, so I need to keep the. So let's keep this one for the name. I stored in the name, but when I start typing the phone, I should keep that in here again, so then I can keep the name. So let me just show in the console log and tell you what I'm trying to explain. So let's inspect on console. Okay.
Yeah, you need to give a value for the first.
Use default value or value props or select. Anyway, we will fix this soon. No problem. So which one for the gender? Is it for the gender?
Yeah, for the gender, first one.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, let's give a value which is empty. I don't think that's from here.
No. The selected should be after the value.
I think I have the value here, right?
I mean, like option disabled select option disabled value and then select it. It worked for me. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
That's interesting. Sure, you mean that I need to give a value here?
Yeah, well, like empty
and
string.
Then just empty string.
Yeah, it worked for me, but
it seems it's not working for me. It's what I understand from here is the select value. Instead of a selected, I think this is because React. I think if I give the value and it's empty string, I need to just say select. So
oh, sorry. For value, I said gender. That's why it worked. Okay.
I think that no, you provided the value, probably from field without an on change handle. Okay. Anyway, we'll fix this soon. So now I will just cancel all the changes I've done. Okay. I know why we are having this because of this on change thing that we will soon doing it. Okay. So Emirhan, what did you say? How you fix it?
For value, if you give like gender, it's gonna work.
First one. If you give a value for this.
Yeah, because it didn't accept empty value. That's why there was an error. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So now what we can say here, you say.
I said gender. Yeah.
Let's say not applicable. And let's refresh the app. Awesome. No, it's still there.
Oh.
Okay. No problem. No problem. So I will be fixing this soon because now it requires a handle change. So let's talk about this handle change for now and just ignore this error message for now. So now what I mean is, for example, that's the handle change that I need to pass for all these input fields. Let's do that now. On change basically is handle change. Okay, the first one is done. The second one is again on change and handle change, the same thing. And the last one is also the same. And the last one is in the select this time, not in the option, but in the select, and it's now done. Okay, now I think, let's just refresh the page. Okay, yeah, now let's just use the default value for it. Default value, empty string. That's what error says. And now it's disappeared, almost disappeared. Okay, let's do that. The value is not applicable. Not applicable. And default value is not applicable. Let's try now. should be fixed. Selected on option, or instead of selected, okay. Instead of selected, use default value. That's the error saying, okay. So because we say selected, the React giving an error because I'm basically doing it in an HTML way, not the React way. In React way, you basically set a value or default value. So then you can keep that as a selected. So if I want this gender selected, instead of saying a selected tag here we had before, so now I remove that, which is this error saying. So remove this, and it says use default value instead. Oops. Okay. Can you still see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Because it just disappeared for me. All right, now it's just come back. Now, if I refresh, all right, we have no error. Awesome. What we have only changed is the adding the on change here, the event, and also on change, and another on change right over here. So, okay, but now how can I get the value of this input or this input or this selector? Well, this is an event listener, the handle change. So because it's event listener, remember that we need to pass an event object as a attribute, as a property here. So, sorry, the parameter here, right? So now I can pass the E, so I can catch the E. So before I set anything, let's just see what E brings in. Console log E, save. All right, so now let's just try adding something and see what E brings in, okay? So adding some name, okay? Look, it's an object. The E brings an object, which has its type, which has its a lot of different properties, but what I need is my target, and inside the target, because it's input now, inside the target, I need the value, which is the last one, almost. Where's the value? E target value.
You need to click the three dots at the end.
Oh yeah, here it is. Okay, so now it's the value, which is what I need. Value. I can't still see the value. Value. Oh, yeah, it's a getter setter value. Okay, let's try the value. I think it's a function, is a getter. So let's do that quickly. E dot target dot value. So now let's just console log again. In the console, we have no error. Nice. So if I add some text in, now you can see the value of the input. So this is how I can get the value. The next question, how can I assign this into the correct property? Which means if I'm typing in a name field, it will be assigned to name. If it is in the phone field, it will be assigned to phone, and it's in the gender, because if I change the phone number now, look, this is the phone number now, and it started from scratch. And if I change the name again, which already has FDFS, and if I continue adding the name and FDFS comes first, that's because it's inside, and then the other, just the one that I just typed is just come later. And if I continue adding the phone number here again, is the current phone number and the other things I am adding into. So, and even in the gender, if I do select female or male, I think it doesn't work for it. Here it is. Handle change and on change. Oh, yeah, it happens. Okay, it works. F, O, F, M. So it works. So that's again the on change on the selector. That's all fine. But again, the question is, how can I correctly assign this to the name and assign this to phone and assign this to the gender? Okay, so that's the trick. Well, now, if we, instead of getting the value here, if we just get the E target, okay, let's save this. Okay, if we have the e-target, let's just type again, but this time it brings in all the input to us. Nice. So and again, if I type in the number field, so it brings the number field for me. That's nice. It's e-target, not e-target.value. E.target will bring me into input. And if I change anything in this here, like the female, it will bring me the selector. That's also nice. So now what I can do basically to separate all these targets is adding a name property, a name attribute for it. So it's input type, text, placeholder name, and everything is fine. But let's add one more attribute, which is name, for all of them. So that's the name. So name of this input is name. Okay, name is again, that's the attribute name, and it's the name that I gave. So now you'll understand if you're just confused. So the second one is the name phone. I'm basically giving a name property, which is now phone. And also for the select, let's give a name. And this name is, let's make it a gender. This time, after I save, this time, if I start, let's refresh the app. If I start typing anything here, and you can see my input has a name, and the other one has another name, which is phone, and the last one is the selector. Now, let's do this. Console log e.target.name and e.target.value. Now, what I'm doing here again, I will type the name of the input and also the value of the input. So let's save this and refresh this. I'm adding now a name. Look, it's name and it's Jamil. So which means it's name, right? It's name because the name is coming from this name, not this name, okay? So this name. So e.target.name is this one. And the value we got this name is this name. So if I change the phone number, 09876 something, now it's the phone field and its number is this. Okay, nice. I can get this phone from here, phone, and the value from, of course, the input. And also the last one is the gender. If I select gender female, I can say the gender F. So which is gender. The next bit is assigning F to this gender. Finally, with one function, I can detect its name, the input's name, and input's value. So I will get this name for this, and I will get value for this part. Is that clear? Or if you have any question? Is it complex?
No,
No,
it's good.
that's clear.
Awesome. Okay. Sometimes I can understand. Maybe I can go more detail. Please stop me. All right. Okay. All right. So now the next bit is to get this name and the value. How can I do that in set contact? Well, that's this easy. First of all, if you do that, yes, set contact what? Set contact, let's say, name e.target.value, e.target.value. All right. As you know, if I do this, it will only set name, not the phone, not gender. And if I say phone, and again, it will just do phone, but not the name and gender. And if I do gender, it will not add the name and phone. So I need to get everything first, which if you remember the spread operator. So spread operator dot contact first, which means get every bit, every property from contact. I'm not saying this again. This and this is different. Do you have any question with the spread operator?
No.
Yeah, it basically brings every property in the object. Here it is. Now, name, phone, gender is here now with this, thanks to this ... contact. And what I'm going to change is this property. So it's sometimes name, it's sometimes phone, it's sometimes gender. And how can I know this? Is basically this. Instead of saying or hard coding the name, phone, gender like this, I will use an angled brackets, square brackets, and I will say e.target.name. So again, if you look at this console log, e.target.name is name and its value, or phone and its value, and gender and its value. So let's do that again. So like if I change a name, it will assign it. So this first bit is name, right? So this first bit is name. So then it is name, which is the name and its value. And the phone and the gender is the same. So this bit is automatically due with one single function will handle all the chains in all the inputs. So you don't have to create 3 different functions for 3 different inputs. So one function will handle basically this. Again, if I remove the console log, but this time, instead of the console log, this time, let's console log the contact. Console log contact. Every time, this may not affect here. Maybe we need to put it in here. But anyway, let's try this first. Okay, refresh and everything is just get okay from scratch. Now, this time again, I am changing the name and I'm receiving an object. And I'm receiving an object with gender, name, phone, and the name is changing, not the gender, not the phone. That's because I changed it. Why we haven't get the L? That's because of this. So I think if we include this inside the return, I'm not sure if the React will allow me to do this. Yes, it doesn't allow me to do that. But again, I can do in a use state, you know, the use state. But anyway, you got the point. It's
Maybe you can put before return.
Where is it?
Before return.
Before return. Does it work? Let's try. Okay, let's try this time. Refresh. Okay, let's do it again. J-A-M. Oh, perfect. Now it's accepting. Yeah, thank you very much, Barry. So awesome. So now we got this Jamil here, and it's the object, and I have the phone, I have the gender, but they're all empty. Yeah, because they're all empty. Now, as soon as I start entering my phone number, my name remains there, but my phone number is updating, and gender is still empty. That's great. And if I change my gender this time, and here's the object with completed information, the Gmail, the gender, and the phone. That's it. Here I have my object ready, and I need to now submit to the Firebase after I click the add. All right, now any question for this bit?
Yes.
All right.
When you have that e.target.name and you put it into square bracket, so
Yes.
the square bracket, what is it, like an array?
Okay, no.
No, it's
not
just something else.
Array.
Okay.
But because it's a variable. Okay, look.
But I
just
see where it comes from.
Okay.
Where the
Yeah.
name comes from. Yeah.
Yeah, just tell me if I just say phone, you understand this, right? This is the phone, this phone is this phone.
Yep.
But can you tell me, is this phone as a string or array or variable or what?
Yeah, it comes from the object, a key.
Yeah, it's the key. But again, if I don't use curly brace, but if I use e.target.name, JavaScript will not understand what I'm doing.
Got it. So it's like one, like as a one whole value, right?
Yes, it's just one for one whole value, but it's actually, again, if you need to set an object dynamically, like change the object property dynamically, I think this is the best question you can ask in the Google. Change object property dynamically in JavaScript, and that's the answer of this question. And then I think one of the answer will be this, like this. So when we use this, because after the dot operator, we can't use the variable name. Remember, we can use the curly braces instead of a dot operator, right? If you have a variable. So it's the same. We have a variable here, and we need to use these curly braces. That's because we can't use direct.
Right. Now, my first thought before when you did it, I was thinking you will do like e.target.name, colon, e.target.value, and then comma again, e.target.phone. So you will like do all of it. This is for some reason I thought you will do, since you put it all inside of the curly braces, and I was like, okay, it looks like an object.
Yeah, it's an object. Look, this is an object.
Yeah. So the whole thing is an object.
Yeah.
And that's why I was thinking you will do just repeat it all.
Yeah. Inside this object, I bring in everything from here to here.
Mm-hmm.
And because this is the same value with one of them, instead of adding the new one, so basically this comma is adding a new one to the object, right? So that's
okay. So instead of
and adding the last one. But because we have one of them named for gender, that basically change one of them. So let's say, let's just say extra. Look what will happen. Oops, we can't do that. Let's just say extra. Look what will happen in the console.
You add an extra.
Yes, I'm adding an extra property for it, and whatever I add will be inside the extra. And I will include the name, phone, and gender there, which is this.
Okay.
Which is this. And this is an extra adding to my object. But if I say phone there, it doesn't add the new one. It basically changed phone for me. But because now is the handle change for all different three types of the inputs, I need to get its name, like name, phone, and gender, to here dynamically. So that's why I use this time e.target.name, which is this name. Look, e.target name is this name. What's the value? Name. So this is name. Name is the value. Phone, and the last one is the gender, and they're all the same with my object names, right?
Okay. So it's just a syntax you're using to into
That's
bracket,
right.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
right.
Okay.
If I haven't add the first bit, what do you think what will happen?
It will change all of it to.
Let's see. Emirhan, any guess?
I would say it will be empty.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Yeah.
Jacob, any guess for this? What will happen if I don't add this bit? The contact. Now I'm removing the contact, and what will happen? Let's see, is if I type now, it just now look, all my object is gone. Gender, name, and phone is gone, and I have only the name.
Updating it. Okay.
Because we didn't use the objects.
Yeah. If I use the phone number, this time my name is disappeared and I have only phone.
Yeah.
It's still object, but I only have the phone property. So if I remove,
so that is basically keeping your all
current value. Old value or current value. Yeah.
Updating it.
It keeps my current value there, which is initially empty at the beginning, but then whenever I change, it still updates it, and it brings my old contact, which I say ... contact.
Oh, that's easy.
So it brings the three items. What is it?
That is so nice and easy. It was one line.
Yeah, that's right. It's one function in one line.
It's just, you need to understand what goes where.
Yeah, that's it. So if we can say this is the level 1, it's I think the level 2, 3, or 4 in the React. So if you can do that, if you can understand this bit, so you are good to go. So right. So now it's a bit more advanced usage of that. But again, in my you know, as an experienced developer, it doesn't really matter whatever you use, but whenever you apply a job, it really matters because they give you a project, right? Take home project, I think. Then they are actually looking at how you solve the problem. Did you solve them in the the level 1, or did you solve them as a bit more higher level? Like this, we can't say it's higher level, but it's basically the content, but it becomes a habit when you more understand the JavaScript, basically. So that's this bit, and you learn it. So now I can now keep everything in my object with this spread operator contact, and now I change the property dynamically and get its value. Nice, very beautifully done. Now I can add them into the state. What is the next bit? Of course, it's Firebase. Click the add button and add it to the Firebase. Now, I will save my project now, and I will get back to my Firebase application. Okay. Are you with me?
Yes.
Right. We are on the Firebase website again. We created our application, which is Fire Contact. It shows up here. And the next bit is now we will get started by adding the Firebase to our application. It asks us which kind of an application we are building. Of course, it's web. So we click on the web button. And it will bring up a new page. Again, it's asking my application name. It might be weird for you because you already gave a application name. Actually, it was the project name, but this time we are creating an application actually. So maybe at the beginning we could say Clarusway because it's the Clarusway project, and the next one could be say the Fire Contact. But anyway, just click this one and give an application name. Again, it's Fire Contact. Okay, I give the same name in my app. I'm not clicking any hosting option for this. Again, the Firebase is also provides a hosting for your application, but we are using a local version, so that's why no need to click this on. Just click register app. All right, very good. Now this time, if it is successful, it usually does, what we will do next is to install the Firebase in our application and get all this info to our application as well to start a Firebase application to initialize. All this value is unique for each user. So I think this value for you is different than mine. So what we need again, let's install the Firebase first in React. And then we will need this information to initialize our Firebase application. Okay, let's do the first bit. Now, in my Fire Contact folder, I will call npm install Firebase. That's what it says, npm install Firebase. Let's do that. While it's been installing the Firebase, let's copy all this information from here to our React application. Well, this time we could copy and paste into the app, but because you already know React, I will create a separate JavaScript file for it. and I will copy all this information there. So in my source folder, let's create a new file, and let's just call it Firebase.js. And inside the Firebase.js, let's paste everything we copied from Firebase website and remove everything, every comment from there. Okay. All right. Again, after installing, it's been done now. After installing, we import the initialize app from the Firebase app we just installed. And this is our API key, the authentication domain, the project ID, the storage bucket, and the messaging sender ID and app ID. I don't think we need this, all of them, but anyway, just save in here and just const app initialize app. One more thing, that's because we are creating a Firebase.js as a separate file. Let's just export default at the end. Export default app, which is this. We are exporting this one. Save. All right. So next we can include this. Next, something is missing there. Okay, one more item is missing there. Sorry, we will do that as well. Okay, so now we export the app, which is initializing the Firebase app with the Firebase config. This bit basically is connecting you to your Firebase application that you just created in the website. And then we exported it. So then we can import it in the app.js. So we can use, whenever we click add button, we can use that initialized app from Firebase. But we need one more thing in the Firebase application, which is our database. Now our application is ready, but the database is missing. So let's click to continue to console. Here, this is our console. In the left sidebar, we need to go to, I think, build. Under build, we have real-time database. So what we need is this one. You can even use the storage for your image file, your CSS file. So that's basically a storage. This is kind of a regular database, not real-time database. But what we will use this time is real-time database. Mostly the messaging applications are using real-time database. The WhatsApp, the Messenger, and all other applications you have used so far is using real-time database, basically. So let's just click the real-time database. And this time we will create our database. Are we okay this part? Because if we miss this part, the application will not run. Are we okay with this in the Firebase, in the build real-time database? And we will click create database. Are we okay with this? Did you find it? Hello.
I couldn't find the build part.
It's inside the console. When you just create, when you click just Firebase, it takes you to here, right? The Firebase icon. So they click that project. When you click that project on the left-hand side,
okay, yeah, I found it.
There is real-time database. Zamir, are you okay with this? Did you find it? Jacob?
Yes.
Did you find the real-time database?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. So next we will create our database. And again, where you want to store your database, in the United States, in Europe, or Asia. So keep it US and click next. And okay, this part important. I'm not using the locked mode. I will be using in the start test mode. That's also important. We will be using it in the test mode. And just click enable. And I think finally we got our database. Awesome. All right, so that's my link to my database. Here it is. So what I need is to copy this link from here and add into my Firebase config as a database URL. So maybe somewhere here, I will add database URL and basically just paste this one. And because it's a string, so put that quotes. Okay, database URL is this URL. Save it. All right, so everything from the Firebase app is done. That's it. Only this bit will help me to connect my React application to the Firebase. Again, don't forget to create a database. So add the database URL with this property, the database URL. And I think we are good to go now. Next is going to the app.js and then import the Firebase. This one, the import app from Firebase, right? So let's go to app.js. Next bit is import Firebase from Firebase.js. We don't need to include the JS, and I think that's it. So the Firebase is from my Firebase website, Firebase JavaScript file. So I have imported it. The next part, of course, when we submit the form, right? So we need to create a function. When we submit the form, we will connect the Firebase and we will just set the new item. So let's start adding the new item. So that after the break time, we can do fetching old items from the database. Okay, so let's create basically a handle submit function. And again, this one is a arrow function. We don't need any event object in here. Handle submit. What I will do with this handle submit this time? So I will, when I click add button, which is handle submit, of course, I will add my info, add my contact to the Firebase, right? So the first bit here is to get my database from my Firebase. So that's why I need to import some set of objects from Firebase.database in app.js. Again, that's my Firebase import from my Firebase.js, but this time I need some set of properties to import from basically the Firebase database. One of them is get database.
That import Firebase, it gives me an error, like it's a red line. Yeah.
Did you export it from Firebase.js?
Yes, I did.
Export default. That's interesting. It shouldn't give any error, actually. Is it the correct file name?
Just 1 second.
Is the
Yeah.
Firebase.js?
Yeah, everything is the same, but
Okay. Let's do this bit and I will check your
Okay.
screen. Okay. Okay. I will import the get database from where? From again Firebase database, because I'm going to use the Firebase database. I need to import it, but this time not from my Firebase.js, but from it's Firebase/database. You might get this error because I think you should say this one. Sorry. Have you tried this?
Oh, I forgot from. That's why.
Oh, yes.
Again, my bad.
And also don't forget this one, I think, because if you don't this one, and it's automatically fetched this from the Firebase in the Node package manager. But if you use this one, it's your Firebase.js. So that's / which I also missed. But this time I get database from Firebase database, not from my database, but it's from the npm package. So they get database. So then I can get database and use it for my React application. But I think it's time for now. So let's continue after the break time. And I will just summarize quickly in the next session what we have done so far. All right. Is that okay? Any question? Shall we go to break?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm good.
Okay. All right. So see you 15 minutes later then. All right. Let's continue. So what we have done so far in the last session was to finishing up all the state thing and how to update the state, and also adding our Firebase application into it. So we created a Firebase.js and included it from the Firebase websites. But in addition to them, we need to create a database first, which we created here in the build and real-time database. We create our real-time database. We copy the link and just add this property additionally, which now completed our Firebase config object. And next, we got initialize app from the Firebase app we have installed with the npm. And we initialize with this configurations, and we call it as app. And we exported that app from Firebase.js. The next, we included that app from our Firebase application. So basically, we could call it app, but I rather decided to select as like maybe Firebase. We could call it app, but because it's Firebase, that's why I just changed it to the Firebase. So avoid the conflict with the React application with the Firebase application. So now I imported as a Firebase, and from the file I have created the Firebase.js. Plus, I needed to import this get database from Firebase database, which is I have installed as a Node package manager npm. Again, if any file start with /, it's one of my file. But if it starts without any / thing, which means it's pick up from the npm we have installed the Firebase with. So in the handle submit, which means when I submit the form, when I click the button, when I click the add button here, now, first of all, we need to get and connect to our database, first of all. So let's say const db equals get database, which I just import, and the Firebase. So get database is from here, and Firebase, I need to include this Firebase, which means now this bit, this line automatically get my database from the Firebase I have initialized from here. So I get the database basically and connect it to our database. So that's my database. Next, I will use a reference. Reference for what? reference for my Firebase application. Currently in my Firebase website, I have my reference is null. Let's click on that null and change it to, let's say, contact. It's kind of the collection name that we call contact, right? So let's change this null to contact and hit enter. So it becomes contact now. So now we can refer this contact in our application when we connect to it. So the next bit is our const reference, and I will now call it ref function. So this ref function, this ref function now I need from Firebase database again. So if I click ref, that automatically included the ref for me, thanks to the Visual Code, Visual Studio. So this reference will be basically my database because this function takes two parameters. One is the database I have created here. Second one is my reference name, which is this contact. So let's do and add contact as a string. Now the reference is ready as well. So because where I am adding to, that's important. So this is my database, but in my database, I can have different collections in this terminology in different references. So I can have multi-references, for example. But in this case, I mentioned it, the contact. So now I connected to my database, but get the contact as a reference and add everything into this contact. That's another bit. And now the next bit is the pushing reference to the new user reference, which we will again get this new user reference as a when we need to set it. Okay, so so next bit again, continue. Const. All right. So I've got my database. This is my connection string. This is my the collection that I want to add it to, which is my reference. So that's my reference point. And now I need to push my reference point basically in when I set it. Sorry. So I don't need this one, but now I need to set the data. Set means add your data in Firebase. So I need to set it, but because set is a function, but this function is from the Firebase database again, if you click set, it will be automatically included as well, set. So set. Now what you want to set, where you want to set. So that's my database. This is where I want to add, that's why. And now the set function, what do you want to set? So so again, the set function gets two property. One of the property is the reference point. So the other property is the object, what you want to set, like this object. I want to set this to here, basically. So, but with one difference, I'm not passing the ref directly, but I am calling push method first, and then reference in it. Again, this push is should come from, again, sorry, just remove this. Let's say push again. And you will see that's the Firebase database. This push function should be also come from the Firebase database, push ref. So that's the first property, first parameter for the set function, the push ref, which is this. Push again is from the Firebase database. Okay, so that's the set. I'm going to set now. Set where? To here, but I need to use with the push function. The next is what? What would you like to push? I want to push to contact. So let's say contact. That's it. I think so. I hope. Yeah, I hope so. Let's just try. And If you're right, if it works fine, we will see the one record as soon as we just click add button. Again, let's just check some underlines. So it says for reference, not sure why this reference is underlined, why handle submit. So again, we need to invoke this handle submit function in the form when we submit it on submit. On submit, handle submit. Okay, not really sure if anything is wrong here, but it seems good so far. That's just 3 single line of code. That's how you set your contact to the Firebase. That's it. So that's my connections in the Firebase config file, and that's my connection strings. That's it. I connect to the database, and I connect it to my collection, which is contact. And now I push my contact with a set function. Let's try. I hope it works. Let's just refresh first. Let's say Jimmy. Let's say a number. And let's say gender. And click add. Okay, what happened? Well, this page is refreshed. I forgot to prevent default. But let's see if my Firebase has the contact information. It seems not. Okay, it seems didn't work. Okay, so for handle submit, I will do one more thing. As you see in my React application, when I click add, because the button type is submit, this submits the form and it refreshes the page. That's why this function didn't work, I guess. So like when I click add, this refresh the page, as you see. Again, it's refresh the page. Even I can't see any uncaught error message there. So instead, I need to include an event object for this time, and we need to prevent the default. e.prevent default. I think this is function. Let's try this time. Add the name, add a phone number, add a change gender, and click add button. Okay, now at least this page is not refreshed, but we have some errors. Uncaught reference error, cannot access ref before initializing. Okay. All right. I think we initialized this ref in here, but it seems it's not initialized.
So we use toRef, like constant ref equals toRef. Is that correct, or?
That's the function, but again, yeah, that's errors I think coming from that ref, because before the initializing. Actually, we did initialize right over here, and we called the ref after that point, but it seems that this initializing didn't work well. So let's just console log the DB if we get anything correctly. Okay, so refresh, add button. So we have the database. Look, we got the data.
You are double using the ref here. You need to use a different name for your ref here.
That one, yeah?
Yeah, I changed it and it's fixed. Yeah.
So let's try user ref. And because this is now user ref, and let's change to the user ref. So let's try this. I didn't think that it would be an issue. But let's try again. In my Firebase, nothing has changed yet. So let's try again. And the phone number, and my gender, and click add. Are you ready? Oh, yes. It seems we didn't get an error. Thank you, Barry and Emirhan. So that's because of the ref I've used need to be user ref. That's fine. Thank you very much. I didn't thank this because the function and it's a variable would be a problem, but it was a problem. Now let's go and check if we have that. Here it is. That's my first contact, which is initialized in Firebase. That's it. So again, that's the config file we created the last session. That's just this bit, a bit of the database connection. We no longer this console log, and that's the reference that we need to, which is contact. The contact is the name of this reference again. If you change it to something else, okay, so for example, if you change it to something like ABC, let's save it for now, and let's apply one more add button, and look what will happen this time. When you click add, this time it will create another reference for you, which means another collection. So with one database, you can collect different data, for example, like your user information, your contact information in the contact collection, or in the Firebase terminology is reference, and maybe for the address, or like maybe additional information with the ABC, maybe username and password in different collections. So you can create multiple collections in one database. So that's why this reference is important. But this time I'm not using any of them. So I can delete this ABC, but I will use contact. So that reference is, again, the contact, the one that you will name your collection. So that's my contact information. So that's why I call it contact. Okay, that's it. And this one basically set my change into the database. Okay, that's it. So how did you find it? Easy, difficult, much difficult? Yeah, how do you rate this to connecting a database?
It's easy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's easy, but because it's new, it might think like, oh, it's too much. But no, actually, that is given from the Firebase website, and this is basically from the documentation. But we didn't go and look at the documentation as far as we know how to do that. So that's just a single line connects you to your database. Okay, so that's how to add it. But now, next question, how can I fetch it? Because I have a list here, right? I need to now fetch all the collection from my Firebase. So currently I have one, but how can I fetch this? Let's add one more, okay? Let's add one more. Okay, let's add one more. And here now I have two. Oh, it's now Jamil Berry. Sorry, Berry. So, okay, let's just change it. We can even update from here. Enter. All right, so here it is. Now I've added two people, but now how can I fetch it? Again, if you remember, we fetch the information, we fetch everything when we basically start the application at the beginning, like when we refresh the app, so which is the component is mounted, then we need to use like use effect, if you remember, use effect function. So in React hooks, this time we will use effect to fetch all the information and show in the table here. Okay, so that's the thing that now we will be tackling. Okay, so this is the fetch this time. All right, let's do that. Before return everything, so I don't need this console log either. And do I have any other console? No. Okay, so that's handle submit, which basically when I click the button. But this time, when I just mount the application, which is use effect, Again, this has to be imported from React, and thanks to VS Code, it's automatically imported, use effect. So it's basically a function, and this function gets a callback function inside. And it's not enough because I will initialize this at the very beginning only one time. I need to add this empty array like this, which means if you remember the class components, there is component did update. Sorry, component did mount. It's been a long time. It works only once when the page loads. So that helps to do that. If you don't include it, which means every single change, it will just upload and update and update and update again. It's like a loop. Sometimes it's infinite. So that's why we keep this there. It will just run only one time when the component is mounted. Basically, when we visit the page, actually. Okay, so that's the use effect. So everything else I will put inside this again. Once again, I need to connect to my database here, again, inside the use effect. Well, let's do that. Again, I will use this bit once again to connect my database. And there we go. I'm done. The next is, again, get my reference. And there we go. That's the reference. But this time, I will not use any set, update, or delete function. This time, I'm going to fetch a collection, and then I will use a query, which we will call as a query. The query is all the values, all the information. So that's why, for this case, for fetching all the information, I'm going to use a function again from Firebase database from this package. So again, that is I'm just confused. What was it? On value. Okay. I'm going to use this function this time. Again, this function has to be imported from Firebase database. It's already there now. It's there on value. So on value is basically a function. So on value function is basically listening every change in the database, which means as soon as the database is updated, it fetch the data. So you don't have to listen manually. That on value will listen your database changes automatically. So that's why in this case, I'm using on value, because as soon as we add any new person, this has to be work again. All right. So that's why it's on value this time. And I'm going to use the query this time, which is again a query function. So again, let's say the on value accept two parameters. One parameter is the query. The second parameter is the function, a callback function. So the first parameter is query. Query is again another function from Firebase database. So it's a function, and it accepts parameter as our user reference this time. In the previous one, it was push user reference in set, but this time it's query user reference in on value. Okay, so on value is function, accepts a parameter, actually two parameters. One of them is the query, the user ref. The second one is a callback function. So let's create an arrow function there. So this callback function accepts a parameter. Let's call it snapshot for now. And I will just show you what snapshot is. Snapshot. You can give any name you want, but let's say snapshot. It's from the documentation. It says snapshot. Let's console log the snapshot value. Console log snapshot dot value. Sorry, just while. Okay. All right. Now look at this. when you start the application, when you just refresh the page, you can see two new objects because we console logged them just here. And guess what are they? One of them is this, Jamil. The other one is Barry. So it returns two collection for us, which means it's an array. So what I need to do next is I will put this array, because it's an array, I will put this array and basically include in here. Okay, how can I basically do that? So, okay. What we can do next is we have the contact as a state, right? Let's create our collections like contact list this time. Let's create a const, and this time contact list. And let's say set contact list. And it will use a use state, and it automatically initializes an empty array. Done. Guess what? Because this is an array, this is a collection, right? When I mount the application with the use effect, since this is now an array, I will basically assign this array to here, to my contact list array. Then I can map through this contact list in my table down there. So I can just map through my contact list down here. All right, that's good. So at least we have contact list, and we can set this contact list with my contact array. But we need to be careful. If you look at this array has the items, you know, a scramble stuff there, like kind of an ID, like you see here. It's basically an ID of the item, I believe. So, but what I need is basically this, not this one, but the gender, name, and phone. And again, the gender, name, and phone. Of course, I will need an ID as well. But now, how can I correctly put them into this set? This is a bit more challenging now. This part is now challenging again. But we will tackle this bit by bit. So now I need an array, but it comes as an object and nested objects actually. So now I need to convert this into an array, is a proper array. So let's try to do that in use effect. Instead of console log this time, let's just try to use a loop. Okay. All right. So before the loop, let's create an empty array first. So let or const, I think we can use const. Let's create an empty array, which is, let's say, contacts. Let's create an empty array. Just keep it there, because when I use for loop, I will get every item into the contacts. Then I will assign this array to my contact list, to here. But first of all, I need an empty array inside, because I'm now going to loop into this object and assign it to here, the push basically into this contacts. Okay, let's do that. For let I equals 0. I is less than, I think snapshot value length, snapshot dot val dot length, and of course I plus plus. Okay, very basic for loop. The next one is I will push now. Okay, just let's console log. Let's console log. Okay, let's console log I. Because here we need to make some changes there. Let's console log the snapshot dot value I. It's being a bit more difficult, I know, but let's just try to console log if I can get every items one by one. Let's just save it. Let's refresh. All right. We need console log. We get this one. We have this, but it seems it's not working. It's not returning anything else. Okay, why don't we do that? We are now in the on value. That's fine. We have created our empty array. That's all okay. We have our snapshot value. That's fine, but we can't get the basically that array. Okay, why don't we do that? Let's change this for a bit like this. Let's say for I, what we should say, let I in snapshot.value. Let's try this time. Save and refresh. Yes, we got this correctly this time. Okay. This one is more big because it's an object. Remember, it's not an array. Sorry. If it was array, remember, if it was array, we could use this. We could use this. But remember that snapshot.value is an object. So we can use this instead. Okay. So now we correctly get basically this one correctly. Nice. That's nice. But now we are using the snapshot.value a lot, right? So it seems we will be using that. Well, why don't we use that? Assign the snapshot.value to contacts first. So like this. So let's assign the snapshot contact to contacts. And now we can use contacts as a variable here and also do the same here. Right? So that's nice. Instead of say I, why don't we say it ID? Because again, at the very beginning, when we just console log the snapshot.value, let's console log it again. Contacts. So when we just get the contacts this time, look, this contacts has an object has every item in the object has an ID. So why don't we call it ID instead of I? So it's a bit more semantic this time. That's it. That's only I change I to ID. Okay, nothing changed. Everything is still same. So we basically fetch all the items and list in console log. It lists 2 times, don't worry. But it's working fine. Okay. The next bit, I need to get all and each item from here and assign it to my set use state. Okay. And right here, remember, we have dealt with this contact before. We will also do the same thing. Okay. Instead of console log the contact's ID, this time, I am now, okay, just one more thing. That's my contact's ID. how about if I call ID? What I will receive, not contact ID, but just ID. I'll show you. This is ID. This is the contact ID. Let's see the difference. One is this ID. The second one is the contact ID. Let's save and now refresh. This time, you will see the ID number, like, sorry, we need to save this. We now separated the ID number from the object. So I can get its ID with its value. So I separated the key and value this time. So that's the key, that's the value. Next, I will include the ID with the contact details in my contact list. I think we will use this time, set contact list and get the object contact list. We'll do the same thing we did here, basically. Get everything from the contact list plus add a new object, which is ID, and contacts ID. This. Something is wrong. I closed the errors so I can't say basically.
I think you need to put in not curly braces, brackets, because the original state is array.
Oh, yeah. It's the array. You're correct. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That's the array, not the object anymore, right? Okay, but it seems some more problem. We get this.
And also the ID only brackets too, not curly. Yeah, that one.
This one.
Mhm.
Also the array, but I was planning to put them as an object. But anyway, let's try the array. Okay, let's try this. Okay, it seems fine now. All right, that's good. So if that bit worked this time, now we can console log our contact list again before return to see if we correctly get all the items from Firebase. Let's try console log the contact list, save it, and refresh the app. Here it is. We have two arrays, and in each array we have multiple arrays. The first array has, no, it's not correct. It shouldn't be this way.
I think if you come here, the code, it should be the second one. The ID should be in curly braces.
Yeah.
And then you need to put, yes, put it in its curly brace, please. And also the closing one. And remove the angle brackets here. Yes. Also, you need to put 3 dots before contacts.
This one.
Yes.
You mean?
Yes.
Okay.
Now it should be okay, I think.
Okay, let's try. Yeah, because, yeah, that's interesting. Okay, let's try again. Refresh the, oh, it's empty. Okay, here is the array. Here's the first item. But I can't see my second item this time. So that's correct now. The gender, ID, name, phone comes, but the first item is missing. I believe it's because of this. because I'm console logging. I mean, okay, why don't we do that? I have another idea. Let's do this because it's quite a bit, as you see, problematic. So instead of using that one, let's create
Okay, I got the point now. Because
Yeah.
when you are still here in the function, it does not update the state. So you need to put the state at the end. So you need to make a collection before, like you are trying to do now.
Yeah, now, yeah. Okay, let's do that first. Okay, so that's bit, I think, the problematic way. Now let's try to have an empty array at the beginning. Instead of set contact here, what I will do is basically the push the contact ID to the contact array. So contact array dot push. What I'm going to push is basically an object, and this object has the ID that I console log plus the contacts.id. And as like Barry said, we need to use spread operator for it. Okay, so now every time for each object, I am pushing its ID with its all the contacts ID, which is because I'm using spread operator because of the object. I need to get all the items from it like this. So this gender, like ID is, I'm adding ID like this one, and all others with the spread operator, which is gender, name, and phone, is included with spread operator. So now this bit will generate this bit. Okay, so this time I am pushing it to the contact array first. After the for, I will set contact list this time with, much more easy, with this array. Oops. Save. What I did basically, again, connect to the database, get my collection reference, query inside this reference, get all the connections, like the contacts with the snapshot value, and assign to the contacts, and create an empty array. Because this is an object, I looped into this object with this bit, let ID in contacts. I got the ID of it, and also the every bit in the contacts ID. And finally, I've the contact array push with its ID and all the contacts ID, like the spread operator. So it generates me a nice object within this. So it's inside the contact array. When my loop finish in here, finally, I set my contact array with my contact lists in my state. So I can now map through inside this table. But before we continue with the map, any question?
So on value, it's changing the data every time, right?
On value basically listens your Firebase for every change.
Okay.
Once it's updated, that works. Yeah. And now if you refresh, you will see that my console log, don't do that. Why it happened this time? $33, right here. It says it has problem. Refresh. Okay, it's console log. Okay, so now look at here. It's the empty array at the beginning, which is this. which is this empty array at the beginning. But after the for loop worked in here, after the for loop worked, it's now 2 elements in the array, and every element in this array is an object with its ID, with its gender, the name, and phone, thanks to this bit. I've created a nice object with its ID, because usually the ID is not included, right? But this time I've included ID correctly. Now, next, let's map through the contact list right in my to-do part. So right here, I am this time doing a map function, and map function takes a callback parameter. So let's create our callback arrow function, and this one. We usually don't need to have this bit as well. We will basically return it. Return what? We will return let's call it item. Sorry, what map? Contact list.map. Okay, contact list.map. Contact list is my array on the top. So this is my array now, which is here, this one. Okay, contact list is my array. I'm going to map through this contact list and get every contact as, let's say, contact. So get every item as a contact. I'm removing this return. If you don't use curly brace, but if you use just this, it's basically return. So what I will do is create a tr for the table row. So let's create tr for a table row. Inside the table row, first td is my contact dot name, which is basically the name of the contact name. The next one is the phone and gender. TD. Let's create td again, and this time contact dot phone, and the last bit is contact dot gender. Save, and let's say after the refresh, the things works fine. We need to put them into the curly brace as well. Curly brace and curly brace, and save and refresh this time. And here we go. The name is Jamil, phone number is this, and gender is M for now. That's fine. Okay, good. We got them correctly. What if I add a new person? So let's say Zamira this time. And now if I add the phone number of Zamira and just change gender and click add, let's see if I can get it quickly as soon as I add. Here it is. Did I call use state again? No, the use state works only once in the beginning. But thanks to the Firebase and also this on value, it automatically updates the table for me. So I don't need to get use state again for the React application. But when you learn your backend and when you implement your own backend, you will see that you will use use effect again because it's not Firebase. But Firebase, we don't use use effect again. It just works in the beginning. Thanks to the on value, it listens the table. Whenever it changes, it updates here. And even if you refresh, it's there. Yeah, and also we need a key. That's the warning. When we map, we need to go there and we need to assign a key. So let's say tr key equals the contact.id. Okay, now we have the key. So I think we will clear the console. No error, everything works fine. Let's remove the console logs. Okay. All right. It seems it's now working. We need a delete and we need an edit. Let's do them real quick. So we couldn't cover the styling, but I believe we already learned a lot of styling, so you can do yourself. But basically, for the objective of this lesson was the Firebase. So now that's the Firebase. Again, what you need to really know about Firebase is how to connect the Firebase application. This is how. And how to add an item. This is how. And how to fetch the data. And again, that's how. And now let's do edit and delete, and let's finish. Let's call the day. Any question before we continue? All right. So this time in my table, I have 3 more heading, which is delete and which is edit. So in our original application, it has, icons, but in our application, I will basically put a link. So when we click on it, or maybe button, that's fine. So when we click those buttons will automatically just click delete and edit button for us. So let's do them. One is one more TD, which is, let's create one more TD. And this time, let's just add a button, very basic button. So I will create a button for it. This button title is edit, I think. Is it delete or edit? It's delete first. And one more item is edit. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so this delete button and this is the edit button. Nice. All right, that's great. So we have deletes, so we have edits. But delete what? Let's do the delete first. So delete the item. So how can I know it's the item that I want to delete? Remember, every item has its own unique ID in the Firebase. This is the ID of the item, and it's all unique. So basically, when I click this delete button, so I can pass the ID of the item. So maybe if I click the button and if I call onClick event listener, and if I pass a function which I will call delete contact, and also pass the item's ID, sorry, not item, contact ID, which is here, which I use already. So which I ask the contact ID. So I pass the contact ID. So when I click the delete button, it specifically deletes this ID. That's it. So I can receive this ID. So what I need is next to create a delete contact function. So maybe after the use effect, I can create delete contact function. And this contact function is accepting an ID, by the way. And again, this is a variable and an arrow function. Okay, so that's the delete item. The next bit is how to delete an item from Firebase. It's so easy. Again, guess what? Connect to the database. Next is our reference. But this time, when we set our reference, we need to use its ID. And in Firebase, it's so easy. Basically, you will use slash after the contact and concatenate ID to the contact, which is this. So now that's your database that you want to connect, and that's the item that you want to access as a reference. And next, let's delete it. Very basically, it's the remove function. from Firebase database. It's not included here yet. It's not included here in the Firebase database. As soon as I click, it's now included here. Remove. The remove is a function, and very, very basically, I will just pass user ref. That's it. That's it. That's how you remove a user from your database. Don't forget to concatenate the ID. Save it. Refresh the page. We don't have anything. And console log is free.
Because on click, you invoke the function.
Where did I do that?
On click.
Click. Sorry. So I.
On delete, on click. It should be an arrow function.
It. Right. So I need to put into an arrow function. So I delete everything then. Did I?
I guess yes, you have already deleted everything.
Let's just say yes, everything is null, because I deleted because I invoked the item already and it's all worked, but I need to call them as like this, so then I shouldn't delete them. But thanks to me, basically, I invoked the function. So that's how I did. Anyway, so let's create the items again one by one. Okay, so what was wrong? So I invoked this function, which means when this page is loaded and every item is deleted itself because I invoked them, but I should call them in an arrow function. So when I on-click, then this function will work. Sorry about this. So now it should be a fix. Let's create the items once again. And now let's add the Gmail, add a number, and change gender, click add. And now let's add Barry, another number, and click add. So now refresh the page. It's all there. When I click, gone. When I click, gone. Now it works fine. Good. So delete is working fine. Well, any question for delete? No question. One more thing left, edit contact. When I click the edit button, I will populate the item in here. It looks very complicated, but it's not, because this data is thankfully in here, as you see, as an object. So when I click edit button, I will basically add this item with its ID and set contact. Sorry, what is it? Set contact and assign it to the item I have click edit for. So let's do that quickly. Okay. So this time in the edit button. Okay. All right. So this time in the edit button, I need to have another on click. But this time it should be edit contact. Basically, it will not edit contact. It will just put the edit there. Okay. So it's not going to edit the contact, by the way. It will handle the edit. Handle edit contact. Again, this is a function. Well, okay. So I need a function called edit contact. But what I need to pass in is basically an object. So within this object, I will have items ID, items username, items phone number, and items gender. So pass an object which has all this ID, name, phone, and gender. Let's do that. Item, sorry, it's contact dot ID. No, we can't do that. Can we? No, we can't. Instead, I was just thinking to make it a basic way. Okay, not object, okay, not an object, but just pass the contact ID. Just make it easy. Contact dot name, contact dot phone, and contact dot gender. Okay, that's it. So here is my function, but I did something wrong there again. Okay, we haven't defined that yet. Okay, let's do also define it. Handle, edit, contact, contact ID, contact name, contact phone, and contact gender, which is I'm going to pass when I click the edit button. But let's create the handle contact function quickly. Const handle contact. Again, it's a function, but again, it takes an ID, name, phone, and gender as a parameter. Arrow function, and inside this arrow function, what I will do is basically set contact. Here is the set contact. So call set contact, and because it's an object, I will very basically pass everything I have as its object. I hope it will work fine. So now I have no item. Let's add Gmail first, a number, a gender, add Barry, a number, and male. And let's go for Zamira. And then a number and female. So now I have sort of 3 items. Oops, here it is. As soon as I click edit, this bit should be auto-populated. Let's see. Edit. Ooh, didn't work. Edit. Didn't work. Edit. Didn't work. Why is that so? That's because I have no value for these items. Okay, one more missing item for the inputs. So, value, because it has its value when I type in. But what if I want to populate its value? I need to have its value attribute. So, for example, you already know this. So if I say the value, so we will get this there, right? So instead of this value, but I will get what? Contact dot name. So now at the beginning, it's empty, but when I click edit, it will get Jamil. When I click edit for Barry, I will get the Barry's name. If I click edit for Zamira, I will get the Zamira's name. That's nice. So again, all value items will be included to the here, which is now phone, and I know I can have the value there. And now this is gender. Okay. Now, well, now I think I need to remove this. And I think it's fixed now. And it's automatically male. That's because when we initialize this, I think we should put n/a. So now it's automatically gender. Nice. Okay. Now, this time we've added only the value to the end. That's now when I click any button, any edit button for any item there, then it's automatically populated. Oh, yes. What I will do next is change the item and click add But you know what? If I want to change the phone number for Barry, so that's Barry now. Let's change the number for him. Let's start with the 0 so we can see the difference. And if I click add, do you think it will change the Barry or it will add Barry? Let's try. It will add Barry. It's not basically changing Barry, but it's adding Barry. There's a mistake. That's because, okay, and also we are having the error because the ID, the same ID numbers, that's just giving the error. Well, now the delete event is not working for the item. Oh, it worked. Okay, fine. Now, the problem in here is this. When we add the item has no ID, right? Do we have an ID? No. When we start adding any item at the beginning, it has no ID. But when I click edit, it has its ID. Look at this contact ID. So how I can identify even I am editing or adding a new item is basically if I have ID for it or not. Again, in the beginning, I have no ID. When I add the user with the handle submit, I have no ID. ID is given by Firebase. But when I fetch the item here, I get with its own ID because every item is given an ID. And when I'm trying to delete the contact, I am passing its ID to delete the item. And also when I'm editing the contact, I am passing its ID to my set contact, which means contact has ID when I'm editing an item like this. Now it has its ID, but we don't see it. Well, we don't have to see it. But we know there is an ID because we passed the ID there. Look at there. This is the ID I am passing for the set contact. So before I am handling the submit, I can check if I have ID or not. If I have ID, add. If I have no ID, add contact. If I have ID, update content. Again, I will basically check if contact, sorry, if contact dot ID, else, again, if I have the contact ID, which means I'm updating the item like this, and if I don't, I'm not updating the item, which is basically adding the item. So this bit will finish the application finally. So again, if I have no ID, I will do this, which I can basically connect. Anyway, let's duplicate anything anyway. So here it is. If I have no ID, do this. If I have ID, update the item. So how can I update the item? That's the next question. Not too hard. Just a bit more, 1 or 2 minutes more, then we will be done. Okay, how can I update this time the item? It's also same, connect to database. Let's connect to database. That's how I connected. Next is I need the update this time with basically the info ID once again. So okay. All right. Let's set, let's update. How did we delete? Reference, remove user reference. That's the DB. That's the item that I'm going to update. That's my reference. That's my user reference. This time I will do the same thing, same reference thing, but this time I'm going to have the updates. Okay. So I think this time we'll do the same thing like we did for the delete. For delete, we remove the reference basically like this. But this time we are not removing it, but we are basically updating with the new value. So first of all, we need a reference like this to select the reference, plus we need to pass all the updates we have. Okay, now I got the point. Okay, so this time I connect to the database. Again, I need to create a reference like this, but again, I have an ID for it. So I will just say slash an ID for it. Oops. Slash an ID for it. Now that's my reference. Some error there. ID is not defined. Okay, so if contact ID, so we should say contact.id, sorry, contact.id. So that's the ID. Okay, I've got the ID. And now, finally, I'll have an update function. And this update function first will get the user reference for me, this one. And the second is, I believe, that's the first one. And second one is basically the updates, which is basically the contact, all of the contact, I believe, like contact name, phone, and gender. So an object, contact.name, contact.phone, and contact.gender. That should be it, I guess. But let's say name is contact name, phone is contact phone, and gender is contact gender. All right. If I'm not wrong, this should be the correct update. Let's try, but my feeling says that it will not work. Okay, so now let's just add one more item. And try this and click add. Now we are adding this correctly. That's nice. So when I clicked person name, so it's updated to this bit. Let's change the phone number. And let's click add. My feeling says we will receive an error there. That's the number. Let's see if the Zamira's numbers will change. Oh, it changed. So my feeling was wrong. So this is how we update the element in Firebase, basically. All right. So that's the CRUD application, create, read, update, and delete in Firebase. All right. So that's the update, that's add, that's fetch all items, and finally, that's the delete. All right. I will just refactor a little bit of this code. That's because it's just a single page, but basically, this is how it works. Yes. Any questions so far? No question?
I'm good. Everything is clear.
All right. Good, good. So the styling is now all up to you. You can even change this, like when you click edit to the update button. Do you know how to do that? How to change this add to update?
Yeah, I think so.
So with this add, you can basically listen if contact ID. If there is contact ID, then it's update. And if it is not, then it's add. Let's save. Let's try again. So it's update, as you see. So let's refresh. It's add. Now you're gonna click edit button, any of them. It's now update. So you change it and it's update. But we should have one cancel button here, right? To just cancel everything to the back. Let's do that quickly. Type button. What's wrong there?
You need the equal sign type.
Oh, yes. Okay, and then cancel there. The only reason I will get this is basically if I have contact ID. If I have contact ID, then this time let's use it. This button. So if I have contact ID this time, I have the cancel button. If I have no, there's no cancel button. So as soon as I have the cancel button or click on the cancel button, on click, I'll call a function and basically set contact empty. Oh, it was object, right? So an empty object with name empty, phone empty, and gender is also n/a. All right, I think that should be fine. So when we click one of the item here, when we click cancel, this all get back to normal. Edit, cancel, edit, cancel, or change anything. So then it becomes updated. And after, as soon as we update, we should cancel it actually. So that's fine. All right. So that's Firebase, and hope you enjoyed the lesson today.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you,
Thank you.
as well. Take care and see you.
See you next week. Yeah.
Oh, I think next week I'll not see you again.
Oh, really? Oh, that's
I think
sad.
our last lesson. So,
Oh, nice to meet you.
yeah, nice to meet you too. So then I
Yeah.
think your backend side is working next weekend. So then take care. Wish you best luck, and I know you will get your dream job soon.
Thank you so much. You
Thank
were
you.
like very good instructor. So
Thank you very much.
Thank
you. Thank you so much. All right. So you just know where I am in the Slack. My email is jamil@clarusway.com. So just anytime you can line me.
Okay.
All right. Awesome.
All right.
So have a great weekend then.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.